Late last year, Taiwan's transportation ministry continued to develop projects and implement new measures in an effort to distance Taiwan from its, quote, pedestrian hell label. Transportation Minister Chen Shih-kai announced to the legislature that they aim to reduce the pedestrian mortality rate by 7% this year, particularly among the elderly. This move stemmed from an incident where two female students enrolled at Taichung's Donghua University were struck by a public bus at a crosswalk, injuring one and resulting in the death of the other. The incident has reignited public dissatisfaction with pedestrian safety in Taiwan. To address the issue, the Transportation Ministry and Interior Ministry are promoting a 4-year pedestrian safety plan targeting 799 intersections, school zones, and other dangerous areas for pedestrians as priority projects. Chen explained the majority of pedestrian accidents are among the elderly. In addition to completing the aforementioned improvement project, he said they are significantly increasing the budget for television and print advertisements in order to better inform this demographic. Chen hopes to reduce pedestrian mortality by 50% by 2030. In 2022, CNN published an article titled Taiwan's Living Hell Traffic is a Tourism Problem, which has led to a series of public and private efforts to change the situation. Today, we'll be looking at some of these efforts. I'm your host, Joey Chou, and this is Beyond the Reefs. Hi, you're listening to Beyond the Reefs, a show produced by Radio Taiwan International. Here we talk about socio-economic issues that are faced by Taiwan and their broader impact around the world beyond the reefs of this island nation. Today's guest is Julia Bergstrom, senior editor at Taiwan's American Chamber of Commerce, which publishes a monthly magazine called the Business Topics Magazine. Let's first give Julia a chance to introduce herself.
My name is Julia Bergstrom. I'm originally from Sweden, but grew up a bit here and there, and also lived in the US. I studied strategic communication for my bachelor's degree, and then later Asian studies for my master's degree. And that's what brought me to Taiwan. After I graduated from my master's, I figured I want to use this new degree, so I need to learn an Asian language. And I had worked together with the Taipei mission in Sweden, so they told me about this Hwayu enrichment scholarship. So I went here to study Chinese for a year, and then I worked at the Swedish Chamber of Commerce before starting at the American Chamber of Commerce.
That means that this gives you quite a lot of time to get a sense of the culture of Taiwan, and certainly today we want to talk about the traffic conditions in Taiwan. I can bet it's a drastic difference from what you went through in Sweden, certainly maybe in the States as well.
Yes, definitely. So Sweden has a very low population density, especially compared to Taipei. I'm from the south, which doesn't have that many people either. And so the traffic conditions are very different. We don't have that many traffic jams, especially if you're outside of the Stockholm area. Sweden is also highly ruled by the pedestrians and the bicyclists. So our roads are kind of designed in favor of pedestrians and bicyclists. And there are a lot of roads in the cities where cars cannot drive, and a lot of one-way streets. So the kind of design of the streets are different. And we also have a lot of roundabouts to control traffic. And that's something you don't get a lot in Taiwan. There is one in the city center of Taipei, but that one has traffic lights. And I'm not sure how that doesn't defeat the purpose.
Right. You're talking about the one that's on Ren'ai and Dunhua.
Yes.
Right. That's sort of the city. Yeah, okay.
Always perplexed me.
I actually never understood exactly what roundabouts are supposed to do in Taiwan. I mean, I never quite get it. But what's the purpose of it in Sweden, for example?
In Sweden, the goal with the roundabout is that you don't stop. It's supposed to be a slow but steady flow of traffic. So, you only look out to the left, and then you kind of merge in with the cars, and you switch lanes when you go out. So it kind of helps control the flow of traffic.
Are you supposed to take as long as you want to slowly edge to the lane that you want? Like you can take a few turns.
No, I wouldn't say you want to do that. but you slowly enter the roundabout and you quickly exit it.
Okay, that's interesting. I never knew that that's how it's supposed to be used. Okay, so Taiwan is not quite understanding the roundabout, or at least how Europeans are using it. I know that in Canada, where I spent a great deal of my growing up, there's a thing called four-way stop, which I can't perceive how Taiwanese people would see it. Do you see a lot of that in Sweden as well?
We have some four-way stops, but we do have a lot of what you might call it, the right hand rule.
Yeah.
So if you're at a crossing, whoever comes from the right has the right of way. And I think in Taiwan is more first come, first serve kind of deal. Something I've noticed is a big difference is on motorways or highways. In Sweden, you would never or very seldom see someone undertaking you. So in Sweden, the right lane is for people driving around or below the speed limit. Left lane is for overtaking or when there's been a car accident and then traffic is redirected. But in Taiwan, people will drive very slowly in the left lane. So a lot of people will end up driving past them in the right lane. And that's something quite different.
In Taiwan, it's just how well can you zigzag through the traffic, and that's what the right lane or the right way to drive is. So what was your first impression when you came to Taiwan? I'm guessing you first came to Taipei. So that must, I mean, being a metropolitan area, that must be a huge cultural shock.
It was. I did live in Hong Kong before. So for me, it was okay in comparison because I feel in some ways Hong Kong is even more stressful. It's even more dense.
Yeah.
But just getting used to being less cocky as a pedestrian, I think that was a big thing. Just watch out and look twice before you cross the road rather than just assuming, oh, they will stop for me. That's something I do not assume here anymore. And then something also that was a bit of a culture shock, but this is not just Taiwanese people, it's also foreign nationals living in Taiwan. People tend to not wear seatbelts in the backseat of taxis or in the backseat of cars in general. And in Sweden, that's a huge thing. You have to wear your seatbelt no matter how you're sitting. But here, people tend to kind of forgo that when they step into a taxi. And again, that's something I've seen with both Western friends and East Asian friends here.
Yeah, we're not alone in feeling that there's definitely a lot of differences on the road. And certainly members of AmCham, chamber members, did also feel that. You guys did this survey in 2023. First off, when was this done and what did it reflect about AmCham members' life in the traffic of Taiwan or metropolitan areas of Taiwan?
Right. So every year, AmCham Taiwan conducts a business climate survey. We usually hold the survey between mid-November and mid-December and then release the report end of January, beginning of February. So this came out February this year. And one of the questions we asked was about different aspects of working and living in Taiwan as a foreign professional. And road safety and banking, as usual, came in last. And so I think that's due to several factors. One is that last year there was a lot of international media coverage about the road safety issue in Taiwan. And then a lot of our respondents, they're, executives and international companies, and they're here with their families. So they're concerned for the safety of the children and not only themselves. And then, of course, I do think it also has partly to do with Taiwan being such a great and safe place to live in general. And so the aspect of road safety really stands out as a negative. Mm-hmm. And I think there's a lot to do in promoting the same sort of people-centered, safety-centered culture we see in so many other aspects of Taiwanese society and putting that culture on the roads as well.
You're right. I think you do come to Taiwan with the impression that it is one of the safer countries in Asia. And then all of a sudden, road safety seems to take things out of proportion. Topics magazine, which is curated by AmCham, had a couple of articles on this. And one of them, you talked about the 3 E's of road safety, which I think is engineering, education, and I can't remember what the third E is, but can you talk about this article and what that third E is that I can't seem to remember?
Sure, absolutely. So the 3 E's, you were right, they're engineering, education, and then enforcement.
Right.
And I think there are a lot of good news here among all the terrible statistics about traffic accidents and deaths on the roads here. You see the Taiwan government doing a lot to increase road safety. So the Department of Transportation, for example, they began surveying pedestrian paths around Taipei City, and they're going to widen and extend sidewalks in some areas. And they're also working to promote bicycling over driving cars, to kind of promote not only safer traffic, but also more sustainable means of transportations. And then you have the Minister of Transportation and Communications. They're working on re-engineering and redesigning some of the roadways across Taiwan. And I think that's also some of the source of the issue, that the designs of the roads are not conducive for safe driving. And so the second E, education, this has been a point of discontent among a lot of critics, right? Taiwan's driver education system is quite different from a lot of East Asian countries and definitely from Western countries. And one of the issues is that a lot of people who got their driver's license got it without actually being on a road. So that doesn't really teach you how reality works. You need to also learn, the practicalities of being on the road. And so the government is implementing, a 5-part education program that's targeted toward elementary and high school students already, talking about road safety attitudes and kind of how to act on the roads, both as a driver and as a pedestrian. And they're also launching a new pilot program. So 2,000 new scooter drivers will take additional road training, and the results of this pilot program will also inform their future plans for driver education reform. So that's another good thing that's happening in terms of education. And then enforcement, there's been a lot of movement in this area in the past few months, although there could be more done. So, for example, there are several new laws with stricter fines, and that's going to help people think twice before they, cross a zebra crossing without looking or don't wear their seatbelts. But placing more traffic police to actually distribute the fines and enforce the rules would also make a lot of difference. But under these new laws, civilians can also report 59 types of traffic offenses. So I would encourage civilians out there to perform their citizen duty and actually report offenses when they see them.
That is when you're crossing a road and not looking at your phones. Pay attention to what's going around at you. I do think that $6,000 fine to keep pedestrians safe is definitely helping. I can already feel that people are being more careful and mindful when they see pedestrians in front of them. But this is coming from the government side. You yourself personally wrote an article on Topics magazine about what the private sectors are doing, because obviously enforcement, education, and engineering is one thing, but if there's no incentive, sometimes it's still hard to make significant changes. So what's the private sectors? I'm guessing this is a lot of motor companies are doing a lot to help make changes, right?
Definitely. So I tried to look at this from 3 different angles. So I talked to 3 different companies working in the automotive industry, but different aspects of it. So the first one was Uber, which is huge in Taiwan. Taiwan is one of Uber's biggest markets worldwide.
Really?
Yes.
In terms of Uber Eats, the delivery system, and
Uber Eats in particular, yeah. Taiwan is huge for Uber Eats.
Okay.
Most Uber Eats food delivery partners move on scooters, and that makes them very vulnerable to traffic accidents, more vulnerable than drivers in cars and trucks. So they are required to take a 3-hour course, and some of that is on road safety before they can offer deliveries. And Uber also has technology to verify that they are wearing helmets before they get on the scooter. And then they've also updated their software so that when an Uber food delivery partner is on the road, they don't get your notification until the vehicle has stopped. So they won't look down on their phone while they're driving because of the notification. So there's a lot there. And they've also appointed a head of safety in Taiwan last year. So they have this Vision Zero initiative for serious accidents that they're really driving. So that's of course, something very important to them. It's keep their passengers, but also delivery partners safe and avoid accidents that happen in connection to Uber. And then on the more car manufacturing side, you have Mercedes-Benz, which has upgraded a lot of its software and hardware to promote safety. They have a long history of collision avoidance systems that they developed. They developed the pre-safe 20 years ago. They also have, blind spot detection, autopilot, and intelligent drive that helps drivers while they're in the car. But something that Mercedes-Benz did that's specific for Taiwan, and that's quite interesting, is that they launched their designated driver service exclusively for the Taiwan market.
Yeah. So
anyone who drives a Mercedes-Benz in Taiwan can use the designated driver service for free. And this was world first. The Taiwan market was first in the world for Mercedes-Benz. So when people have driven their car to a restaurant and they're having a drink, they can call a taxi driver that works with the company to come pick up the car and drive them home in their own car. And these drivers have also undergone training with Mercedes-Benz cars, so they know how the cars work. So this, I think, is something that more and more car companies are also doing. I know Ford has a similar program to kind of help mitigate drunk driving.
Yeah.
And that's a really important part. And then lastly, for professional drivers, I spoke with Scania, which is a huge car and bus manufacturing company. And they have worked a lot with training of their professional drivers. So they have all these like gamification of safe driving training and also, all these different programs. And you can actually see in Taiwan, professional drivers, while they spend more times on the road, they are at smaller risk of accidents than non-professional drivers. So I think a lot of the companies here, truck companies, they do a lot when it comes to training and making sure that their drivers aren't too tired or stressed out, because that's also a huge cause for accidents. But they are also promoting something called platooning, which is semi-automatic driving. So it's when you kind of connect 3 trucks or more trucks in a row, and the truck at the front has a driver, controlling the speed and where you're going, and the others are connected through internet and following that driver, and then you can switch so that drivers can rest in between shifts. So there's a lot happening, and it's very interesting. And of course, these companies, they don't want anyone using their products to end up in accidents, because that's a bad customer.
Yeah. Okay, so we covered 3 pretty big markets. Uber, which is the food delivery system. Mercedes-Benz, a lot of people, Mercedes drivers obviously would like that kind of high-end service, although this is something also provided by local taxi company, 5688. They started offering this years ago. So what you said is basically they had these drivers upgraded to being familiar with Mercedes vehicles, so that when they take your vehicle, the vehicle itself is in good hands. And of course, logistics, right? Truck drivers will definitely need this help. I find that a lot of these things are maybe only suitable for a small high-tech island like Taiwan. For example, as you said, platooning, I think I read it in your article, that it requires a lot of internet bandwidth.
Yes.
And that's something that you can maybe only find on the highways of Taiwan. You have very good and stable internet to allow these cars to follow after one another.
Yeah, Taiwan actually, in the latest reports, has the fastest internet speed on average in the world. Yeah. So that's definitely a perfect place to start these pilot programs for things that require good connection.
Yeah. So reminder for those who are listening, though Taiwan may have less than average road safety, we have great internet and great food delivery systems. It's still a very safe place to live. So thank you so much, Julia, for your time. That concludes our conversation for the day. Join us again here on Beyond the Reefs, produced by Radio Taiwan International. I've been your host, Joey Chou. See you next time.